Hey, what's going on? It's Chris with SBC. Today I'm going to be breaking down exactly how I take care of my boa constrictors because my method is both beginner friendly and budget friendly. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so before we get into the video, let's just take a moment to look at this guy right here. This is my Hypo Inca Jungle. He is 100% het for VPIT positive and 50% het for Anery type 2. You can really get a good look at those sides right now because I got some sunlight in here today. But he's just got all sorts of pinks and grays marbled into him. And just the salmon on his tail is ridiculous. He's got this perfect connected pattern. And something I've noticed about these Incas is that they have this lighter stripe that runs down the side of their pattern. So it's a connected pattern similar to what like a Motley would have, but it definitely has its own unique characteristics. And then just blending in with the Hypo and the Jungle, it's just... he's a phenomenal looking animal. Alright, so it's no secret that keeping boa constrictors is, well, it's not cheap. So, whenever I first started keeping boas, I was a teenager and I needed to find some kind of budget-friendly way to be able to keep these guys and still meet all their health requirements. So, the first thing that you're going to need is some sort of enclosure. You're going to need something to keep your boa constrictor in. And what I personally use are different types of Sterilite tubs, and that doesn't have to be an exact brand, but something similar along those lines. You can get these kinds of containers for anywhere between $10 to $50 depending on the size of it. You can usually find these containers at places like Walmart, Target, Home Depot, the Container Store, anywhere that's going to really sell storage containers or storage bins. I do recommend getting something that's opaque, so that way that they can see through them, they can still get light through the containers, and also get something that has locking lids. Find something that's going to have some kind of secure top on it, because these guys aren't weak. If you have a very loose fitting lid, or you have something that locks on two ends but isn't really secure around the sides, these guys have the potential to get out. You're going to need to make one modification to your container before you can actually use your container as an enclosure. You're going to need to add ventilation to it. I usually do this by either drilling holes in the top, or you can melt holes in the top of the enclosure. I've noticed that a 50% ventilation rate along the top usually gives me that good balance between both fresh air and the ability to hold in humidity. Alright, so now that you have your enclosure together, you have your space where you can put your animal, the next thing that you're going to need to spend money on is going to be how you heat your enclosure. So for my heating, I use under tank heating. I specifically use FlexBot heat tape. It's sold by the foot. It's really inexpensive. It's usually anywhere between $8 to $20 a foot depending on the size piece that you need. It comes in different widths. But I'll use that underneath of my enclosure. I make sure that I cover 25 to 30% of the enclosure's floor space on one side. That's going to be my hot side. Now that you know how you're going to be heating your enclosure, the next thing that you're going to be spending money on is going to be your thermostat. I use Inkbird thermostats. You can find them on sale sometimes for as low as $15. Or straight from the manufacturer, you can get them for about 30 bucks. I've found this to be a good in-between for both quality and affordability. So now that you have all your heating supplies together, how do you make the system work? So I'm going to have my FlexBot heat tape underneath one side of the enclosure. I'm going to run that to my thermostat. My thermostat is going to have a temperature probe on it. You're going to take that temperature probe and then tape it down with some aluminum foil tape. You can get that from Home Depot for about $3. And you're going to tape it to your flex watt heat tape. And then you're going to put your enclosure on top of that. You just want to make sure that that probe can't slip off or fall. It needs to read the temperature of the flex watt heat tape. Next, you have to actually set your temperatures on the inside of your enclosure. I do that by being able to double check my temps. I double check my temperatures with an infrared temperature gun. I will set the temperature on my thermostat at 104 to 105 degrees, and then I will check the temperature with that infrared temperature gun above the flex watt heat tape on the inside of the enclosure. I will read the surface temperature. That usually gives me that 90 to 95 degree hot spot. Again, you should double check yourself. You can get one of these infrared temperature guns for about $10 to $15 at Home Depot. So the last things that go into your enclosure are going to be substrate and a humidity gauge. Substrate, it's really going to depend on price, depending on what you use. You can use anything like paper substrates, like paper towel or craft paper, or you can use something more naturalistic. It's going to be a little bit more pricey, but it's not going to be super expensive, like Cocoa Block or Eco Earth. It's usually affordable, like $6 a brick, or maybe $8 a bag. Really just depends, you'd have to check. But one is going to hold more humidity than the other. Obviously, Cocoa Block is going to hold moisture much better than paper towels will. That means that your humidity with Cocoa Block will stay up much longer than it will with paper towel. So to maintain your humidity levels on paper towel, you're going to have to mist more often. To maintain your humidity levels, you'll mist less with your Cocoa Block. So this is where, with a beginner keeper, keeping a humidity gauge on the inside of the enclosure really benefits, because it gives you a visual representation of when you need to mist, when you can skip, and when you need to let it dry out. So this is pretty much going to wrap up the beginner-friendly, budget-friendly method of keeping a boa constrictor. I've been keeping boas like this since I was a teenager. If it worked for me then, it works for me now, and then it's going to continue working for me in the future. If you asked me how to take care of a boa constrictor and how to set up your enclosure, this is the exact advice that I would give you. But I took a minute to put all this down on paper for you, so that way you can see how much savings this actually is compared to if you just went and bought a full-blown enclosure online. Right now, I think a PVC enclosure online is going for $299 to $399. It's definitely not cheap, and that's just the enclosure. That's not including heating, substrate, and everything else in it. But I went ahead and marked your container at about $30. That gives us a hit in between that swing of 10 to 50. I put the heat tape budget at $15. I put the thermostat budget at $30, because just in case you're not able to get it on sale, $30 for your thermostat. Substrate, I went ahead and marked that at $20 in case you want to go ahead and use Cocoa Block. Even then, that's kind of pricey for Cocoa Block. Depends on the size bag that you're getting, but $20 for substrate. I put $20 for your humidity gauge. It doesn't have to be the most accurate humidity gauge. It just needs to be able to give you a good visual representation of when you need the mist, when you can skip, and when you need to let it dry out. $3 for your aluminum tape, $10 for your temperature gun. I believe I got my temperature gun for like $8. So all this together came out to be $128. That is a heck of a budget setup. So now that you know how to set up your next boa enclosure for less than $150, if you got anything good out of this video, I would really appreciate it if you took the time to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you have a friend who could also get anything out of this video, take the time to hit that share button. Until next time, happy keeping.